This old story about two ladies of pleasure reveals the most painful truth about being an elite courtesan in the Edo period. One December day, the beautiful courtesan Kachō sat weeping. Her career at the brothel was about to come crashing down. You see, there was another woman named Kayoiji. Kayoiji and Kachō were fellow elite courtesans in the same brothel, so they hated each other. These two were Godzilla and King Kong in kimonos. Every new year, the ladies paraded down the street of the pleasure quarters dressed in a new fancy kimono, each looking to outdo the other. But this year, Kachō received 0 kimono money from her clients. Even worse, she heard that her nemesis was swimming in coins and was planning something special. A courtesan survived on how much business she attracted. If her reputation tanked, Kachō could lose clients and even get demoted. As the new year approached, the other courtesan, Kayoiji, had a crimson kimono made, and sewn on it were these tobacco pouches with colorful patterns and rare fabrics. The plan was for the crowd to grab them as she walked and take them home to not show their wives. Meanwhile, poor Kachō did something that was just one step above having no kimono. She made an outfit out of black paper and despair. But at the last minute, one client dropped a big ol' bag of coins on her lap, enough to buy kimonos for the rest of her career, which made Kachō cry even harder because she had no time to order a new dress. On the big day, that skank Kayoiji started her parade. She only took 10 steps when the crowd swarmed her like she was Walmart on Black Friday, ripping off every pouch, leaving her to shuffle the rest of the way in a plain, sad kimono. Our girl Kachō didn't parade. Instead, she threw a bangin' party at a tea house and sent all her kimono money to the owner so he could give a huge tip to all his workers. She aimed to be the most generous courtesan ever. The two ladies were called Tayū, the highest rank of prostitutes in the first half of the Edo period. These women lived under tight rules. They often went hungry because they were not allowed to eat in front of customers, and there wasn't time to cook between appointments. Okay, so the most painful truth about courtesans was they were like swans, looking elegant and gliding against the current, but beneath the water, their little feet were paddling like mad. Tayū, like Kachō and Kayoiji, behind the scenes, endured lives of much debt and little freedom. Living a tough life is one thing, but every day feeding customers with a smile while your belly screams for relief, that might make you want to feed that belly a knife. First off, let's talk about how they kept up appearances, then we'll dive into the harsh reality. Tayū didn't just sell sex, they sold a fantasy of love. Clients bought a relationship package filled with nobility and class. These women were educated and their conversations cultured. The pleasure house bosses gleefully kept up this vibe of luxury because you expect a high price for luxury, right? Many art prints were commissioned by brothels to advertise their ladies, always showing them with fancy clothing. Brothels would send these to clients during holidays like New Year's, complete with a courtesan price list and maybe a poem from a Tayū. Fashion back then was like Kanye. It got crazier and crazier. Like in the beginning, a Tayū wore a comb and a ribbon in her hair. By mid-Edo period, her head was like a pincushion, sporting 12 turtle shell pins and more ribbons. The sash started out skinny and short, but over time grew super wide and more than 12 feet long. During special events and festivals, Tayū turned the streets into their personal runways. They marched with their huge crew, attracting huge crowds. These walks became more extravagant, and courtesans competed to outflex each other and gain the attention of the richest clients. The crowd included women, too, who saw these as fashion parades. Tayū were called the ideal feminine beauty, and sexuality dripped off them like erotic ice cream on a summer day. Tayū stood out from normal women. She tied her sash in front like other prostitutes. She didn't wear socks, but did powder her feet white and strutted on wooden shoes up to 20 centimeters high, like she was above everyone. In a culture where women were mostly covered up, a glimpse of feet got your heart pumping. Titillating things like the inner side of the arm, the back of the neck, and even a stray hair made men so thirsty they went straight to a tea house brothel. And if a foot got people excited, the streets must have been stained with the blood of 100 noses when they saw a Tayū walk. During a parade, a Tayū walked slowly, kicking out her legs in a figure-8 pattern, each kick exposing her ankle and maybe even a calf or a bit of thigh. Tayū were the perfect fantasy. Well, fantasies are great, but it's time to put on some pants and snap back to reality. Let me peel back the charcoal mask and reveal the white heads underneath, and also reveal why falling in love was the worst thing a courtesan could do. Tayū life was actually quite free of liberties. She couldn't even leave the pleasure district. Tayū raked in a lot of coin for the brothel. Their own money pouches were tighter than a sumo wrestler in skinny jeans. They were known for refusing unworthy clients, but usually they didn't have the luxury. They had to juggle multiple clients to get by. Each Tayū had to bring in a certain amount of money every day for her pleasure house. If she didn't, the money came from her own designer purse. This included sick days. She also had a whole crew of maids and assistants to take care of, and on top of that, premium makeup, clothes, hair care. The debt kept her tied to the brothel beyond her contract. Now, Miss Tayū did have it better than the lower-ranked ladies. Servants did everything for her, like clipping her nails, bringing her tea, lifting her mosquito net so she could walk to bed back straight and head high. Patrons also sent her expensive gifts. And that was why she was always worried about money. Not making enough meant she could be demoted and lose those privileges. Talking about money, or even touching it, was supposed to be beneath her, so she couldn't even negotiate prices. The brothel set prices. A Tayū was hungry all the time since she couldn't eat in front of clients, couldn't even talk about food. Courtesans had euphemisms instead, like violet meant soy and flower of the waves meant salt. She had to drink as much alcohol as her client could. Laughing must be done quietly, with your sleeve covering your mouth. Courtesans walked an impossible tightrope, always looking experienced but innocent, refined but submissive, faithful but unattached, available and unavailable. Of course, there was the constant threat of pregnancy and STDs that every prostitute dealt with. STDs were rampant, but there was a threat even greater than pregnancy or STDs, something that would totally ruin a Tayū's life, the dreaded four-letter word, love. Courtesans had fantasies too, the fantasy of a rich patron falling in love and buying out her contract and carrying her home on his muscular arms. But this fairy tale scenario was like chicken sashimi, rare and could end in disaster. Brothel owners kept a nose open for any scent of love in the air. Not only could love-struck courtesans refuse to see other clients, they could run away and totally get caught, or sometimes go all Romeo and Juliet with their lovers. Most courtesans retired by their mid-20s, and by then they were too old to marry and too stigmatized to pursue. Many stayed in the Red Lantern district as matrons or managers of brothels. Life in the brothel was harsh, but Tayū had it better than lower-ranked women. Most were content, especially because they did not know life outside the pleasure quarters. Inside, they were celebrities, which came with the usual ups and downs of being one. In 1761, the last Tayū retired, and none came after. The prestigious rank of Tayū disappeared for the rest of the Edo period. Now, what happened to our girl Kachō? After she threw that party at the tea house and made it rain on the workers, the public was shocked. Mad spending while wearing a cheap outfit, showing such disinterest for money? They ain't never seen game like that. The people were impressed. This was the way of the pleasure quarters. This was style. They called Kachō the soul of generosity, and Kayoiji faded into the Red Lantern District background noise of humping and sobs. Now, although brothel owners discouraged love, it still happened. In some cases, it resulted in the most tragic event, a double love suicide. Why did couples do it? And why did the public applaud when it happened? Click on this video to find out. We have a new emperor on Patreon today, Ray. You are great. We also have some regular patrons, Idoya Amuchatsugi, Valerie Kevano, Lisa Levine, and Chibiusa 40. Thank you so much. Alright, I love you and spread the knowledge.